Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi
Good
there.
evening.
Good evening.
Hey. It'll take a minute. Some people should be joining us in a minute. Um, let's see, Margo, do you want to handle the
Intro?
introductions and stuff?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Glad to. This is Eyes of Indigo, co-hosted by Iris Carter and Margo Ross Sears. Welcome to any of newcomers that are joining us this evening, and welcome back to any of our, let's say, regulars
Yeah.
that like to come and play with us on a weekly basis. We appreciate all of you. Thank you for being here this evening. And for the newcomers, if this is obviously your first time watching us, if you'd like to know more about the background of why Iris and I do this, how we do this, and so on, please feel free to check out the very first episode, the prequel that we recorded. And you can find that on YouTube, correct, Iris?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And tonight we have a special guest that I am going to have Iris introduce, and we shall roll from there. So thank you for being here. Namaste.
Yes.
Namaste.
Paul Nixon is, I consider a dear friend. He and I used to work together when the Creative Center was in Greensboro, and it was basically a place where artists could set up studios, and we had classes, and there was communal areas and that sort of thing. And I helped manage the facility, and Paul helped with odds and ends around the facility, but then also he was an artist and he had his work displayed there. And so Paul is from Ireland originally, and fascinating how his artwork and everything is influenced by Ireland, which, I mean, that would be a natural thing, but also he has a history of being in contact with otherworldly experiences. I like to say, I guess would that be accurate, Paul?
The Fae. Man has a relationship with the Fae.
Yes. And I want to show real quick. This Paul, you can. In fact, I'll put just the photo. Tell us about this.
Oops, did we lose him?
I hope I didn't lose him. No, he's still there.
Born in Dublin.
Yeah. Oh, he's freezing up, I think.
Okay.
Well, I was born in Dublin,
so
and my parents several times throughout each year would take me to my grandmother's in the mountains
Irish, shrink it down.
In the northwest of Ireland. And
it's still freezing up.
So on some.
All right.
Can you see me okay?
Now we can.
There was.
Well, it was here as
we lost you for about a minute there, off and on, from the feed.
My grandmother, who was very much a mystic.
It's
still freezing up.
Now we've been talking to him for how long, and now
I know
beliefs that I've come to learn today.
Darn it!
We talked to him for an hour with absolutely no problem.
Yes.
Hi, Deborah. Good to see you.
Anybody else who's here, please
sign in.
Yes.
Say hello.
Yes.
Let us know you're here. Say hi. You don't have to, but we like seeing our audience when we can. And we are going to try to get Paul to reconnect. He says the internet service in his area is not ideal.
But it worked for a while. I don't know what the problem is.
Yeah, it worked for 45 minutes without one hiccup, and now it wants to glitch. It worked.
Yeah.
It worked better when it was not on full screen. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Yeah, I don't know, but
When you had it on 4/4, he kind of, I don't know, it looked like he stayed.
let me see.
I don't know if he knows that he's not on the air. We'll get this fixed, folks.
Okay. Let me.
We're gonna try to figure out what happened a little bit.
We are having technical difficulties. Remember how they used to do the little signals?
Yeah, little spinner out. So yeah, put up a flag or something. Shall we start telling them the stories that he told us for the last 45 minutes?
And then we had to tell him, whoa, we got to save some of this for the show.
Yeah, he's a natural storyteller, and it was wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. I will share while we're here, his website is, and let me put this, I got to watch. Hopefully I'll hear him when he comes back.
That's some of his artwork you're looking at there, guys. His sculptures.
Let me, all right. What am I doing? I don't know. Wrong thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I was looking at the wrong paper. I've got too many things available here to me. On this, his website is paulnixonart.com, and I'm going to go to the homepage first off. These are some sculptures that are in the Greensboro area, Greensboro and Summerfield. And
North Carolina.
Yeah. And the one with the fireman and the two children was his first. And then he's got other pieces of artwork. He does stained glass work. He does paintings. And if you go back
in Photoshop,
yeah. And here's a whole list of all these different things. He's got bronzes, sculptures, religious works, antique restoration, and
relief wood carvings, and media, photography. Yep.
And he's pretty much self-taught. And this, I don't know if you can tell, in this tree, there's all kinds of carvings. Yes.
Yeah. And they're very Celtic and fairyland, pixies and elves kind of thing.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's a picture of him working.
Yes. And this was in the Creative Center for a while. I know he did something similar for the Creative. It was now he's done this for the National Board of Certified Counselors, but he did something similar for the Creative Center. It was one big tree, so to speak. And I need to come back. I got to make sure
That's Queen Maeve, carved of walnut. There you go. It's part of the William Butler Yeats Museum in Ireland.
Okay. Yes. Wait a minute. I'm going to message him.
To go through the connection stuff again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to multitask, and it's.
Let me jump in here a little bit to free you up, if that might help.
Yeah.
All right. So Paul Nixon grew up in Ireland and learned a lot about the Irish supernatural in terms of leprechauns and folklore and history that goes back, according to him, 6,000-7,000 years in that immediate vicinity, not as well as other parts of Ireland, but mostly around the mountain that you saw in the first picture with the little white house down in front.
Yes.
And and that's his origin story. And that's he actually encountered some supernatural beings. And that was one of the stories we were hoping he would relate to us. So we will try to roll back around to that.
Yes.
And Iris?
Yes, I am back. Wait a minute. Let me.
You're okay? All right. Hey, Angie. Good to see you out here, sweetie. Thank you for checking in. So we've got one from YouTube and one from Facebook. Yay.
Yeah, we know those are working.
Yeah,
Now,
we
if
know
we
those
could
are working.
just figure out why
we can't find Paul.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you know what? In a worst case scenario, we could reschedule him.
Yeah.
Because I really hate for you guys to miss out on this man's magic. He's a Renaissance man through and through. Painting,
He knows
sculpture,
the
photography, history.
And
and that fabulous Irish accent that you only got a smidge of a taste of so far. It's almost as good as listening to Australians talk.
yes.
I'm kidding. They're both beautiful accents, and so is ours. So
I hope his internet didn't go down. You know what I mean?
If he did, we will reschedule.
We'll give him a few more minutes. But I want to show off a little bit more of his artwork. So let me put this back in, and
it might buy us some time. Hi, Edie.
just to give people an idea of the stuff,
complexity.
Yeah. And he may mention this again, but this is, there's a name for it. I don't know, but it's an Irish mermaid. There is a name for it. And he said the cap is what
lets her be a human on land.
Yes. And so if she came on land and found a partner, the partner got the cap and would hide it so that she couldn't go back.
Right.
And
make her his wife. Yeah.
And if he didn't hide it, she would take him back to where she was from. We're going to let him tell this story, but you can read about it. But all of these are figures that he has done in his stuff.
And many of them are sizable. They are several feet. And the man has a penchant for painting and anatomy,
yes,
and wilderness and perspective and lighting. Wow. Yep.
I mean, these are beautiful.
He's a Renaissance person through and through.
He started making these. They're called Bishop's Croziers, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Croziers, something like that.
Yeah, they're bishop hooks. In my plain English way.
Bishop staff. It's a bishop staff. Yeah.
And he made one, I think, for somebody locally, and then other people found out about it. And so here's one that's in Los Angeles. There's one in Pawleys Island, South Carolina. He's got people requesting them from all over the place now. But you can see, some of the detail in it, and he'll
gorgeous.
Here's him presenting one, and this was in Greensboro, and then
2003. Yeah. Ooh, look how ornate that is.
Yes. And he's done them for some very prominent figures. This is for somebody in Sligo County,
Ireland. Museum
in Ireland is a bishop. Yeah, there's one in Colorado and Delaware
and Maryland.
Yeah. And so,
practical stuff too. Yeah.
Tennessee, and Episcopal Church of Colorado, Bishop Kim Lucas became the first female bishop, as well as the first African-American bishop in the diocese's 132-year history. So did one for her. So it's just fascinating bits of history. And let me go.
Absolutely.
That's the unveiling of see all the detail on this fireman? I mean,
absolutely. It's just, and that was his first work.
Yes.
For the public.
Yeah, in that modality. And then he did the This was for the VFW Post in Summerfield. And I mean, he's just so attentive to detail. And then Grandover Resort, he did their lion,
Oh, I love that. The boy dog. Yeah.
Boy's Best Friend. It was installed at the Daniel Stowe Botanical Gardens. If you've never been there, they're in Charlotte, and they are gorgeous and a phenomenal place to visit and to see. He did this one for Hospice of Greensboro. Patrick, he would wait by the front entrance. He's waiting by the front entrance for kids to come, but he was modeled after
a real dog.
Yes, that lived at Beacon Place.
Yeah.
And he was to make people smile, and then he passed away, I believe.
Sure.
Psychologist was hired by the staff at Beacon Place, diagnosed him as chronically sad. He was then moved to a new location.
Oh, the dog?
Where he spent his days tagging along with children on tours. Interesting. So
okay, so the dog was diagnosed, not Paul.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd make that clear.
Yeah.
Hi, Randy. There you go. Guys, you're coming in a little bit. You missed the first part. We seem to have lost connection with our guest speaker, Paul Nixon, a prolific artist, and Iris is regaling us with the beautiful photos of his work on his website. And he originates from Ireland, but he obviously uses influences from Greco-Roman and Egyptian, as well as, and a lot, obviously European, Irish, Celtic as well. We're hoping that Paul could rejoin us because we lost our connection with him.
Yes.
About 5 minutes into the talk, and so we might reschedule.
Yeah,
and bring him back another day. Yeah.
Let's do that because I want to save this, and I do apologize. We will announce. I'll have to get with him and find out.
Because there's more to Paul than just his artwork.
Yes.
Because of where he grew up, he's actually had personal encounters with supernatural beings from the fairy realm, or the Fae, F-A-E.
Yes.
And he has stories to tell.
And what's interesting is one of the things he was telling us before we started was, Yeats, the poet, grew up and in the same kind of conditions in that area. Yeats would come visit his grandmother just like Paul would go visit his grandmother. They had a lot of similar experiences, and Yeats talks about the fairies and stuff in his thing. I will show this one picture that is really cool. Let me try that, and let me make this bigger. I'm going to go kind of fast through these because I don't want to give away everything, but these are, that's the one. Wait a minute. Go back. This is the mountain that is the other side of the mountain that is sitting behind his grandmother's house. So we had his grandmother's house over here, and you got this mountain.
The reverse side is the other side that, flip forward there.
Yeah. And so that dark spot in the middle of the kind of white area,
squarish.
They call it the fairy door. I mean, that's just known throughout that area. And he said when it's rainy and wet, the whole area turns dark. But when it's nicer weather and dry weather, you can see what they call the fairy door, and that whole area has a history of being
highly active.
yes. So I'm going to turn that and hide it, and
And we are very, very sorry. We're disappointed to miss out on Paul this time.
Yes, but
But we're going to snag him again because he's also a great storyteller. And if you
yes.
can imagine listening to his storytelling with that lovely Irish American accent, it's very entertaining and it is actually enthralling to listen to him. It's hypnotizing to listen to him. So
Wait a minute.
definitely. Is he tapping back in a little bit?
He's
Yeah, the mountains look like ancient tree roots. Absolutely. Did any of you guys see the similarity between those mountains and the ones we have here in like Arizona or New Mexico? Our buttes and mesas out west
yeah.
look really similar to that sacred mountain in Sligo. Not Sligo, Arizona, Sligo, Ireland. And it kind of draws a picture for how my immigrating back in history, immigrating Irish people and Scottish people who were in similar mountain ranges naturally gravitated to the Appalachians and the Rockies in this area. Well, we're a similar parallel. So the trees, plants, and environment, obviously, as you can see, even the mesas a little further south look and feel a lot alike. And as you know, those mesas and mountains in the Americas also have a long history of supernatural activity.
Yes.
So the energy would feel very similar. Yeah. Australia too. Yes. Ayers Rock, baby. Yeah, absolutely.
He's working on it, and so we'll give him a couple more minutes. Oh, wait a minute.
At the time, it's 10 o'clock. Is there a way that we can snag him for another whole hour? On another date. I know you're typing back. Guys, we appreciate anybody who's still listening to us babble.
Yeah.
Pretty much. We appreciate you.
Yes. At least now you've got the prequel to his show.
You got the warm up. Yeah.
Yeah, but let me see what he says. He's telling me stuff. Okay. Let's see if we can do this next Wednesday. I'm asking him so I can tell y'all. I was gonna. I can share a quick story just so it's not a total
blank.
Myth.
Yeah.
Is that he said he could do it next Wednesday.
Bing. We can hear it banging back on you. That's awesome.
Yeah. We'll see you then. I'll message
Top of the evening to you.
Yeah. I had an experience. It was really interesting. I had it was more for shits and giggles, but I was interested too, yeah, he's still messaging. Okay. All right. He says, thanks us both. He doesn't know what happened, but we're going to do it again next week. Okay.
Yeah. Good night, Randy. Thanks for stopping by, sweetie.
Yes. Yeah. I had an instance where I was studying about fairies. There was a woman who was she had written some books on it, and she offered the fairyologist certificate, which I did earn. And it was fun. I mean, you watched videos, you read her book, and then you answered the questions, and ta-da. Well, I was in the middle of doing that and catching up on some of the videos, and I had actually ordered some cards, like they're not tarot cards, but they're
oracle cards.
Oracle cards, yeah, that were fairy based. And I had ordered them, and they had come in, and I had them sitting on the table by the door, but I hadn't opened them yet. And it was like midnight or something, and I thought, I'm tired, I need to go to bed. And I heard this, no, you need to look at those cards. And I'm like, yeah, I need to look at those cards. And so I picked them up, and I went through and was kind of, energizing the deck and playing with it and looking at the little book that came with it and all that stuff. And I was just so into it. And about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm going, okay, now I am going to bed. And I walked back to my room, and I passed the back door, which has a little window in it, and look out, and I saw these lights in my yard. And I'm like, and there were just a series of little tiny white lights. And I was like, no way. And I open the door and I go out on the back deck, and they're probably 100 feet away. And they formed a little horseshoe shape, like
Yeah.
a semicircle.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they were all perfectly lined up, and they were about
Wow.
3 feet off the ground.
Ooh.
And I could just kind of see them just kind of fluttering a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, it's fairies. and I knew that it was because I had been studying them, and they were,
And that
energy was there. And I thanked them, and I said, you're beautiful. I love watching you. And they kind of did their little thing, just staying in the semicircle. I said, just confirm for me that I'm seeing what I'm really, because I was like rubbing my eyes, like going, am I awake? And I'm like,
yeah.
can a couple of you come a little closer? And about 3 of the lights, and they were just random. It wasn't like a pattern or anything. It was like 2 here and 1 over on the other side. They moved about 10 feet closer.
Oh.
And then they went back into their little line, and I was just watching them, and I'm like, this is amazing.
They could hear you.
Yes. And it was
feel you. Yeah.
And it was like, they do exist. Yes, clap if you believe. Thank you, Peter Bell.
There you go.
Yeah.
Iris gets a silver bell.
And it was just amazing. And after I have seen signs of them.
Yeah.
And you did a reading not long after that. We had one of your events at the beach, and you did a reading in a restaurant for everybody. And
hang on, your sister just commented on your last story.
And you didn't lock the door and move the next day.
Run that across the screen.
I'm trying to get to it. Yeah, wait a minute.
You're damn straight, Deborah. Actually, fairies are good. They guard your house from crap that's getting in, so you don't want to lock them out. But that was funny. That was a good comment, sweetie. You know what? Deborah gets one.
Yes. I'm going to tell your story, Deborah, if it's okay. But I want to tell the Margo story, and then I'll tell Deborah's story, if you don't mind me telling the story about the one you had.
Deborah, she's going to tell stories on us. She better break open your wine and move that cork bottle, baby.
I live out in the country kind of thing, and I every once in a while, it seems like about once a year, I'll get a mouse, coming in. Well, it wasn't long after the fairies were around. We did this thing at the beach where you did a reading, and I said
it was a ghost and gourmet weekend.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, my sister says, obviously I have no secrets. Not when you're around me. Everything is
not when your sister's name starts with an I.
But I said, I don't know what brought up the question, but it came out, and I said, I'm getting mice, and I want them to go, and I don't know how to get them to go. And you said your first words were, oh, it's the fairies. And I went, what? I've been killing them. Holy fuck. And you said, no, it's not the fairies. They're the fairies ride in on them. They used to like little horses. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I had picked up one that was still alive in the trap, and I put it in a plastic bag, and I took it out back, and I whacked it up against the wall to kill it. And you said it appreciated that. Its soul just went pew.
And I saw it. It went boing and just bounced off the wall. When you hit the wall, it went boink. In one way, that's morbid, but it was painless because it was so fast.
Yeah.
That's so Iris now that I know you better.
Yeah, I know it. And I was just like, ah! And so, but then what you did was you set it up so that I would get a different tribe of fairies, because fairies assimilate in different tribes, and there are warring tribes, and it's
Sometimes.
yeah, sometimes. And so you said give it about 2 weeks, and sure enough, within a couple of days, I stopped getting mice, and then butterflies
The
started
herd
coming in.
moved on.
They moved on, and butterflies came in.
Butterflies came in. Yeah.
And so it was like, holy cow, the new fairies are here.
Hey, y'all.
So that was crazy. So anyway, yeah, and they're going, Iris has just been flying around too much. But honestly, I'm only drinking Southern wine. This is sweet tea. Like
house wine of the South, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a fairy story to tell, and then if you'll regale us with your sister's story,
okay,
and we'll pass that off a little bit. This is a story that I'm recanting from someone else telling me. A man named Michael. He had a daughter who lived in another house with her mother. The girl was, and I'm not going to get every single detail right, but the part that's important will stick. She, in other words, I can't remember if she was 3, 4, or 5, but she was very, very young, but old enough to walk around and talk. Okay. And he drove up to the house, and it was late at night, and he had not been able to see her much. She was an extremely intelligent and social and aware little girl, what we might call an indigo or a crystal or a Blu-ray child or something like that. And I don't remember if this happened right before he went up to the door and knocked, or if it happened right after he came outside at the end of the evening. I think it was right after he left. Anyway, the occurrence was in the yard, in the trees of the house that his daughter and her mother lived in. And they had a good time. They had a good visit. And he came outside, and it was summer. It was summer. And he came outside, and there were a stand of trees several yards away. And 2 of the trees had so many, he said that they're fireflies, all right? Had so, and maybe they were something else. He said, I mean, thousands of fireflies all over both of those trees, covered it from top to bottom. Even at night, like it was, you could see individual branches because there were fireflies all over it, thousands and thousands. What was cool is that they were flashing in unison, and they were literally doing a tempo. There was 2 trees side by side, and they were doing flash, 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 and everybody was playing. Yeah, it was, and it was playing. It was coordinated, and it was mesmerizing. And he was like, because he had never seen this phenomenon before. He later mentioned it to his daughter because she was young and she was very aware. And he said, I remember you said you had little friends called fireflies out in the yard. And she said, yeah, did you enjoy the show? And he had not told her, and she did not see it. And he said, enjoy what show? And she said, I asked them to put on a little show for you. Did you enjoy it? She knew. And he was like, oh, yeah. Can you do that again?
Oh.
And that was like, yeah, that was somebody, that little girl could seriously talk to the fae. Because even if that was fireflies, the fae are the ones talking to them. Okay.
Yeah. Somebody had to coordinate that effort. And
yeah. Wow. Who needs wine and drugs when you got Margo and Iris? You're good. We'll hook you up once a week with a good laugh.
Yeah.
and some amazement along the way. So
Wow.
that was a really cool, that I really feel that was, yay. And maybe I'm leaving out his last name, but maybe someday Michael will see this podcast and realize that I basically got a story across.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And your sister has you have a bone to tell on your sister.
Yes. She called me one day and she said, Iris, she had a bridge, she's a big bridge player. And she had a book that's like a book where they keep their notes and things in it. And I don't know what all. And she said somebody had actually given her a $20 bill, like to pay for some dues or something. And she had stuck it in there. And she said, one, I'm upset. She said, the book is supposed to stay in a drawer in the kitchen. There was a particular drawer. She said, I come in, I throw the book in there. That's where it stays until I leave the next time. And sometimes her son, who also plays bridge, would borrow it, but he always put it back. I mean, it was just, that's where it was. If it wasn't in her hand, it was
Tradition.
in the drawer. Mm-hmm.
Tradition, right.
And she said, I went to get it and it disappeared. And she said, while I need the book because I need it for myself, she said, I can buy a new book, but I don't want to have to reinvent all the stuff that I put in it. She said, and that $20 is in there that really belongs to somebody else. And I'd like to, she said, but I can't, do you have any clue what happened to it? She's asking me to kind of do a little reading. Yeah. And so it was like, I said, Deborah, did you bring some new artwork or something into the house recently? And she said, yeah, she had gone to like the local farmer's market or something and bought a new yard ornament. And it was like a little dog thing. She said, it's a weird looking thing, but I thought it was cute. And I usually don't buy stuff like that. She said, but I was just drawn to it. And she said, I brought it home, put it in a bag. It was in a bag. I put it on the table. And then she said, now it's out in the garden. I said, you brought the fairy that was the muse to create that piece of artwork.
Wow, that's very specific.
Yeah, the artist that created it was inspired by this fairy. I mean, he didn't know it, but
And the fairy stayed with the sculpture.
And the fairy stayed with the sculpture because it liked it. I said, but it got in your house and it went, whoa! It didn't go out with it. It stayed in. And I said, it was drawn to that book for some reason. Maybe it was because it sensed you cared for it or whatever.
And the money, both of those together would be huge pocket of energy. Yeah.
Yes. And so she's like, I need it back. And I said, don't get evil with the fairy. Don't get mad. Don't yell at it. I said, but ask it nicely. Just make a general statement. I'm so glad you brought that artwork into my life. Thank you. But I really need my book back, please. And I said, just do a couple of that a couple times, and it should come back to you in the next couple of days. She called me a few days later, and she said it came back. And I said, oh, and she said, yeah. She said she was sitting in her living room, which is next to the kitchen, and she heard something thunk. So when you have the kitchen drawers, there was a cabinet next to it. And you know how like you can open a cabinet and kind of see inside drawers? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I've lost stuff that way. Throw something in and it goes out.
Pulls out the back. Yeah.
Yeah. She said, I heard something hit my mixing bowls. And she said, when I heard my mixing bowls rattle, she said, I knew exactly what it was. And she went and looked, and it was her book laying in the mixing bowls. It was like the fairy brought it back, but it missed the drawer and it dropped into the
threw it on out there.
Yeah. And she got her.
Just gave it a lob. Yeah.
I said, and then I said, so you thank it, you tell it it can go now, and maybe next time you open the door, you invite it to leave. I said, it'll go, but
It has to do what you say. Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's your kingdom. Yeah.
right.
Right.
Right. But there's
Or
never,
queen.
don't, I've got a little sign that I painted and it says, don't piss off the fairies. Yeah, you never want to piss off the fairies. They've got ego because they're attached to the earth.
Right. Right. They understand karma. Yeah. On that level. Absolutely. Most of the time when you want fairies to give you something back, you have to trade for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually in the form of sugar, which can be alcohol or candy or fruit. Candy tends to work the best because it holds up, but sometimes they ask for specific stuff. And yeah, usually a trade works. Think of it as trading with a little kid that got a baby that gets a hold of your car keys, and it's not going to give it up until you give it something else. Yeah, it's very karmic. Very karmic thinking.
I
But
lost
they're also very, very loyal. They're also very loyal too. Yeah.
Yeah, I lost some keys. I had a keychain I had gotten a whistle from Guilford College that I had on my keychain, and it had the big oak tree from Guilford College on it. So a silver whistle with an oak tree on it. Laid my keys on the kitchen table, went to take the garbage out, came back, keys were gone, never could find them. I was so mad, and it was like, and I was gonna try to put milk out for them, but I thought if I do that, I'll have every stray cat in the area, you know. No, might not.
Booze,
Yeah. So it's like,
booze,
yeah.
beer is very popular.
Oh,
But whiskey is also an excellent choice as well.
interesting.
It's the famous, you know how movies hearken and reveal all kinds of stuff. Remember E.T.?
Yes.
How did he get E.T. to come
Oh,
in the house?
Reese's Pieces.
If you want the fairies to move from one place to another, make a trail. And they'll understand what it is you're trying to get them to move to.
Ah, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
see, my luck, I would do something like that, and then my dog would go out and die of chocolate poisoning, you know?
Reese's Pieces, no chocolate, just peanut butter.
That's true.
And also, what else would help? Mints, even breath mints, which cats hate. So you got less cats peeing in your flowers.
Oh.
Yeah. Put mints out there, like Altoids or something that'll eventually chalky types that'll eventually dissolve. But that's another way, or butterscotch or hard candy or cinnamon mints or something like that, or cinnamon candies.
I guess you need to unwrap them, huh? The fairies don't want the trash.
It depends, because the wrappers are shiny and they're crinkly and they make noise, and they're small enough to be picked up and moved away, and they can stash them if they want to.
Oh, that's true.
You got to think like a fairy.
That's, yes.
Not my first rodeo. This planet is not my first rodeo.
Angie says crystals.
Yes, thank you. Yep, more shiny, powerful vortexes of energy. Crystals do it. Coins and pennies. Coins are very popular for paying them off. Okay, the tradition of paying them off. It's actually the shiny and the metal and the energy that's attached to money. Crystals, same thing. The shiny and the energy that's attached to crystals. Nice ones.
Little metal strings and things
Wind
like
chimes.
that. Yeah.
They love wind chimes. Or if you get a harmonic that they don't like, you can annoy them by accident. Like neighbors. Basically, if it's harmonic with nature, it'll be harmonic with the fae.
I would think
And
if it's pleasant to your own ears, also, it's like,
if you are an elemental, if you have an elemental soul that's pleasant to you, then it would be pleasant to them. An elemental soul is somebody who has magic kingdom energies in their soul's history. Shamans fall in that group. Witches and wizards fall in that group. Fairies, trolls, elves, anything from Lord of the Rings,
my
dragons,
precious.
Gollum, talking trees, all that. Yeah, all those things are you talking rocks, talking rivers, stars, giant eagles that will pick you up and fly you away, which looked like fun like crazy there. Dark, light and dark creatures. Yeah,
I would rather ride Arturo from Neverending Story than be picked up by an eagle.
It looks a lot more plush and comfy to ride on Arturo. For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Who says he wasn't just a big fuzzy dragon?
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. He kind of dogs and dragons kind of look. If you look at the Asian flair, they got a lot in common.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So the Fae show up everywhere on Earth. So if anything you do is harmonic to nature and the earth and sky and water, they'll be happy with you.
And
And when
the
they're
thing
happy with
is,
you,
you can
you're
treat
safer.
them and ask them for help.
Yeah.
So if if you've got a garden that's kind of not doing as well as you want, you can ask them, can you
Look
help
after
my
my plant.
garden? Look after my garden and put some coins out there or some booze or whatever. Don't water your plants with the booze. That's not going to help. But ask them or
Pour them in little soda bottle caps.
mm-hmm.
And we're talking about just several drops. All right, and put the little caps right if you're going to do the booze route.
Yeah, and don't get the neighbor's cat drunk. And then, I don't know.
Be discreet. Be discreet. Yeah.
And I've had like bees start congregating. Sometimes I'll go out and ask the fairies, "Hey, would you kind of get them to move?" And that kind of put that energy out there, and they're very responsive.
They're very proactive. Absolutely, they are. Yeah. I've heard tons of stories of fairies saving gardens that were overrun by pests or not growing well. Um, People tell me stories about that good stuff all the time.
Oh,
But house fairies like to move stuff around, and it's always shiny stuff or things that have power, like crystals, like keys, like your favorite makeup, your favorite book, your cell phone, your eyeglasses, your
and
remote control. Yeah.
yeah, and there's lots of things. Like I remember I went to Eclectic by Nature, which is a store in Greensboro that is very eclectic. And I think it was when I bought the fairy book from them. The cashier I was noticing they had the fairy doors, the little fairy doors you can buy. They're like little hang. And
Yeah,
I said, "Oh, how cute." And she said, "Yeah." She said, "Just don't put them in your house."
yeah.
And she said she had told her sister bought one, and she had told her sister, "Don't put it in her house." What'd she do? She nailed it to the kitchen wall. Then all kinds of crap started happening. I told you.
I told you. Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, you
Yeah.
open the door, you close the door. You give a door, it opens.
And the fairies use it because it's their door, and they'll come in and
make it their place. Yeah. That's a garden porch kind of thing.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Put it on a tree,
Absolutely. Guys, you're listening. If you've got any kind of fairy stories or favorite fairy things you want to mention in the comments, feel free to jump in here, and we're more than happy to try to get you to elaborate a little bit.
Yeah.
Or see if we've got something related.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys still being here, listening to us talk about the fairy realm. And The fairy realm, I say fairy realm, really, that's the Magic Kingdom, which is a phrase that Walt Disney copyrighted for his entertainment venue. But that was originally called the Magic Kingdom. And that does include, by the way, dragons and mermaids and unicorns and all the magical sea creatures that we don't always hear much about besides mermaids. It includes those creatures too. So the Magic Kingdom's huge, and the Fae is just one part of it. Yeah. This is probably part of the origin of why the Harry Potters and Magical Beasts series is gotten so popular with Newt Scamander, the predecessor to Harry Potter, the author J.K. Rowling. She's famous for collecting mystical beasts from all over the world. Chinese ones, Indonesian ones, Australian ones.
Not literally, but figurines and things. Well, okay.
Sure, if you insist. We'll stick with that, Iris.
Let's go rescue the beasts. Let's go to her house and rescue the beasts.
Who says she isn't taking them to release them and rescue them herself?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Mm-hmm.
She could be a rescuer herself. She enjoys rescuing children. Who says that's the only thing she's rescuing? Yeah, you can roll with this one.
Oh, man. The possibilities. Yeah.
Are infinite there, absolutely. But yeah, there's folklore and mystical, magical animals in almost all cultures, as we know from looking at Greek mythology. The three-headed dog of Hades, his name was what? In one culture, it was called Ceres.
Sirius.
No, that's a dog star.
Oh, well, that's why I thought it was.
Well, you know what? And another, Ceres is very close to the word Sirius. I bet you linguistically it is the same word. This is Ceres.
Ah, got it.
So it's close enough to SIR, the start of the word Sirius. Of course, there's, what is the half man, half goat?
Pan?
Yeah, well, that was his name.
Oh.
I'm thinking Minotaur, but that's a half bull, half man.
Yeah.
If anybody knows what that is, when the Hercules cartoon, that guy was his trainer. He was half goat, half man. In the comment section, if anybody remembers what those things are called.
Faun, F-A-U-N.
Yep. Okay, that's one word. Yep. That's he was called a faun. Very flirtatious.
Yeah.
They had a lot of testosterone.
Yeah.
And there was a river guardian. How do we end up with goat noises in almost every episode it comes up? Somehow we always get back to goats. Yeah, we ought to make that a trademark from here on out without trying too hard. Let's see how fast we can get to a goat at least once.
We can put it in our introduction.
Or
Thank you for joining us.
Goats or sheep. Let's keep it on the positive side there too. Goats have connotations as well, but anything that goes bah. That would be awesome.
Oh my gosh. Awesome. Yeah. We've taken a random thing that popped in my head too. Yeah, I know that happens all the time.
You don't say.
I was in a Zoom meeting last night. And it's fascinating. If anybody is interested and wants to join it, they can. It's called a Zula meeting. And it's we call it the guy who sets it up calls it the Today Meets Tomorrow, because it's international. He has it like at 9:00 at night, so that people from Europe,
Other parts of the world.
yeah, other parts of the world can join in. So there were people there, from Canada and South Africa, and and it's fascinating. You got about 20 or 30 people in this room, and they has breakout rooms so that you get to talk to about a half a dozen other people and get to meet them. Well, one of the guys I think it was Jeff. I was talking about something, and it inspired him to throw a picture up. Jeff Pulver is the guy that does it. Google him; he's fascinating. And he put a picture up of a campfire that they had on the beach with some other friends, and it was like in Tel Aviv or somewhere where they had done this, wherever there's a beach over there. And they were on the beach and they had this campfire. It was him and several other people, and they were sitting around the campfire talking. And he said he loves to take pictures because the fire makes interesting shapes. And this one had a unicorn in it. How kismet is that it would come into our conversation today? So,
of course.
yes.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That is awesome. That is awesome, 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 awesome. Very cool. All right.
Yeah.
So
next week, Paul comes back. And
we'll hang on to him this time.
Yes, we will. We will find a way. We're
going to manifest that. Yeah.
Yes, put it out there. So we appreciate everybody joining us this week. Hope we were able to entertain you in the lapse of not having Paul. And we appreciate you joining the conversation as always. And I guess we will see you
next week.
Next week at 9:30. So let me
bring
this up.
March 31st.
Yes, It would be March 31st. Yeah. God, can you believe March is over? Almost.
Marching on. Beat you to it.
All right. Good night, all.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining The Eyes of Indigo with Iris Carter and Margo Ross Sears. Music is Arcadia by Kevin MacLeod of Incomptech.com, licensed under Creative Commons. Visit our Facebook page for broadcast details, www.facebook.com/eyesofindigo. Show is copyrighted 2021 by Iris Carter and Margo Ross Sears, all rights reserved.